But let's chat a little bit about this game, right? So we go in and what a flyer of a start, right? So a free kick from Sebastian Berhalter falls onto the head of Chris Richards and nods it off the bar and in to give us the lead with the earliest goal in Gold Cup final history. What were you thinking at that moment? How were you feeling?
I mean, it felt exactly like what we need. I mean, you look at the two teams lined up on the field, and listen, I'm not a Mexico national team expert, but I recognize a few names, and it felt like Mexico's A team plus a 16-year-old against like our couple of A-ish team guys and a bunch of like C team level players. So like you had to imagine we were going to be on the back foot most of the game. Like just talent wise, they are more talented on the field. So to get the early goal, I think was massive in terms of setting us up in a position where we can now try and defend a bit more. I'm not saying just completely park the bus for 86 minutes. I think that would be a nightmare, even though it's kind of like what they almost immediately went into. But it was still exactly the start that you need when you were kind of like, I would say the lesser team talent wise on paper, like going into the game.
Yeah, like I said you're flying high at that point, and you've got Mexico on the back on their back heels, which is crazy, right? That's not something I was going to expect. But then you saw this was a game that the U.S. did not have the ball at all. I mean, they played a game. I mean, they played how many games before this, and the majority of the time they were in possession. They were setting themselves up to build through the lines, and it was very, very calm and collected. And this Mexico team put them straight under pressure, and you could tell that they felt the pressure, right? And I think that's one of the things that Pat Odgman did really well this game was his hold up play to release that pressure and not just turn it into a clearance and a turnover was really, really helpful, right? His hold up play led to that first goal, and then he drew three or four more fouls in the first half alone. I'm actually looking up his stats here really quick just to see what he finished with, but he was a nightmare for these defenders. Yeah, he drew five fouls and he won six of nine or nine of 15 duels. I mean, the dude was really, really strong in a very interesting system for the team. But then you come down and again, the passage of play that led to Mexico's goal was very nice, right? The pattern that they went through to play through the lines, the reverse pass to split the back line. You got to tip your hat to it, right? It wasn't a fluke. You got to tip your hat to it. They level the game, and at that point we go in at 1-1, and you're sitting here thinking, okay, it's our, we're not really in the game, but we're not out of it either, right? So let me just fast forward to kind of the big talking points, right? You get halfway through the second half, Max Darfson finally getting involved in the attacking half, goes to do a step over against a guy in the Mexico box. Guy trips, hand goes straight on top of the ball, stops it dead in its track. He picks up the ball and starts drilling again. Referee says, "Play on." Penalty for you?
I don't even know what the definition of a handball is anymore, to be honest with you. Like, I understand in some circumstances that you're not going to call a penalty if it's like, his arm's down by his side and it's like it just happened to go off of it. Like, clearly he was not making himself bigger. But like, I mean, I don't think he intentionally was like, I'm going to grab the ball and stop it. But like, at the same time, like, if his hand is not there, he's not touching the ball. So like clearly he, you know, expanded his range by like landing on the ball with his hand. I mean, I think I am leaning more towards saying that it's a penalty, but I'm not like I really don't know the rules. Maybe the rules is kind of are kind of dumb, but maybe it does say in the rules that like, he has no intention of like touching the ball with his hand, so there's like no penalty there. But I mean, it looked pretty blatant.
Yeah. So I was reading that too. The definition that came up was when you're falling down, your plant hand or your brace hand is considered a natural movement. So therefore it wouldn't be brought into the idea of handling, right? But the problem is he gains an advantage from it, right? The ball is rolling away from him, and I don't know, I don't think there's any USMNT player around, right? I'm not saying that he's going to prevent a goal scoring opportunity, but the ball is rolling away from him. He puts his hand on it, stops it from moving, then picks it up and starts dribbling again. that's the definition of gaining an advantage, right? So I'm not sure, maybe legally, yeah, maybe legally, not a pen, but you're right. We need to just have a straight definition of if the ball hits you between your finger here and your the bottom of your shoulder right here, handball. Doesn't matter what happens. Just call it. I don't care because it's getting and I'm not saying this because Red Bull, goodness, USMNT didn't get something good out of this, but it is just getting annoying in the world of in the world of football, right? And then right down the field, right, they come back and they get a free kick, which we can talk about the referee all day long, giving the softest fouls in the world to Mexico, and then letting every USMNT player get hacked to the floor without giving a penalty or a foul. But he gives a free kick on the outside. He gets flicked on, and Edson Alvarez, one of the best players in CONCACAF right now, is kept on side by Alex Freeman and nods home to go level or to take the lead rather, and that's pretty much it. We pressed to the end of the game, but had a chance at the end where Tim Ream plays a ball over the top and Patrick Odgman runs onto it, but the space gets closed down, and we end up losing the game. And I kind of said it before. I didn't expect us to walk away from this game with a 3-0 easy win, but losing sucks. That's kind of where I'm at with it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, losing sucks, but like, I mean, when you take in the full context of it, it like Mexico with their top team, generally top team here, really, I know they dominated the game, but like in terms of clear-cut chances, their two goals were really the only ones. Like they had a lot of the ball, and I think the US, generally speaking, had a very good defensive shape, and the defensive shape just broke down for like just very bad times where guys just switched off. And both of the goals, the whole back line was in line for offside trap, except for one guy who held them on both times. So, outside of those two moments where two guys just kind of like switched off and weren't in line with the rest of the back line, I feel like the defensive shape was really good. The problem was like you could not retain any possession. It was like the minute the ball went to Tillman or Luna, it was just immediately a turnover. Like the guys just could not find Pat. They could not find anybody else. They did not do well with the ball under pressure and would constantly turn the ball over. So then everybody has to reset back, you know, buckle down deep again in your own area and play defense for the next 5 minutes while Mexico is passing the ball around, looking for crosses into the box to find Jimenez. So I feel like the idea was there, and I think the idea was done well. Like I'm not gonna sit here and like praise Pochettino to the ends of the earth because like at the end of the day we still lost. So there's probably some things he could have maybe done better to make it a bit more of a better chance for us to win. But I think generally speaking, I don't think the game plan was a bad idea, especially because like I said before, the US team I think was a mismatch of talent against this Mexico team.
It just felt so. All right, coaching hat on, right? So I liked in the build out this 4-4-2 block, right? Sebastian Berhalter goes out wide, Tillman goes up as a second striker, and you saw that it caused problems for Mexico in their build out. They couldn't figure out how to break it down because they were so used to going up the side. Right, they were so used to playing with teams that had two wide players that kind of stayed high to pressure the outside backs. They just let their center mids kind of drift out into the wide areas, or their wide players drop in. They picked up the ball in those wide areas, and they created in those moments. Now they struggled with that. But the problem was once they did break that down, Berhalter tucked himself inside to play more as a center midfielder. Well, that left Alex Freeman one on one with whoever was out there, and he was having to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. Same deal with Max Arston, who we know is not a strong defender and did not do well in that phase of the game. All I mean, for all tournament, right? He was struggling all tournament. So much so that Diego Luna, one of our more creative attacking players, was being called back and back and back to defend inside, his own 18 more often than he was in the other team's half, right? And that's what happens when you go up against a team with the quality of Mexico, right? Especially Mexican's first team, right?